when they're all set up. Just say, okay, we're ready. Just let me know when.
All set up. They've just got a post.
Alrighty. Hey guys, thank you again for anybody listening right now today, and welcome to our sixth Anime Legend podcast with your extended hosts here, Chris, Andrew, Fally-Senpai, Sinclair,
Post.
Sentry, and Dante. We have our podcast here every week at Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. This week is a special week where we are streaming today on Friday because we delayed this last Tuesday's podcast. So bear with us. If you're tuning in, great. But usually we're on Tuesdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time.
Okay, that was
Don't
weird.
forget to don't forget to check out our website at AnimeLegend.org, where we have many up and coming hardworking writers bringing you news, updates, reviews, and more. Also, don't forget to check out our Facebook page, whether you're watching there or watching somewhere else. Don't forget to check out our Facebook page at facebook.com/animelegend.org. Our Facebook group that most of you are probably watching in at Anime and Manga Legends. And don't forget to check out our newly established Patreon that we've made at patreon.com/animelegend. This Patreon was made. It's not too big of a deal, but we have plenty of hardworking workers for our website, our YouTube channel. If you want to help support everything that we're doing projects-wise, go check it out and donate whatever you want, and we'd greatly appreciate that. So that's patreon.com/animelegend, and again, our website at animelegend.org. This podcast, we will be talking about a variety of topics like usual, news, discussions on this past week's episodes, and of course, at the end, a Q&A for all you folks listening. So we'll get right into it. We'll talk about today, this past Monday, like every Monday, we have our top 10 discussion, which we will start hosting into our group through Discord this coming Monday. And we will be, we will try to live streaming into the group so everybody can join into us. We'll have experienced people who are caught up with everything during the week, having our top 10 discussion, and anybody will be willing to join as long as you have at least 10 of the seasonal animes under your belt. So this past week, we did that like we usually do. We came up with the top 10 list that most of you probably seen. It's pinned in our group. It's pinned in our page. And that's week 9's summer anime list. Starting from the bottom, at number 10 this week, we had Macross Delta, which dropped one spot from last week. At number 9, we had Alderamin on the Sky, which dropped up one spot from last week. At number 8, a new entry, which we wanted to see very dearly in the last 8 weeks, but finally deserved a spot in the top 10 this week, and that's Hatsukoi Monster. At number 7, dropping 4 spots for a very, very valid reason, Orange. At number 6, jumping up one spot from last week, improving on its past episodes, Ray Zero. At number 5, jumping up 3 spots, getting to the climax of its season, Shokugeki no Soma, Season 2. At number 4, a brand new entry into our top 10 list over the past couple weeks, and that's Danganronpa 3, The Despair Arc, having an amazing episode last week's episode. We're not talking about this week's episodes. At number 3, dropping a spot, D. Greyman Hollow. At number 2 last week, we had JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 4. We're not counting this week's episodes. We're counting last week's episode. JoJo's Diamond is Unbreakable. And number 1, this past week's episode of Mob Psycho 100. Every week, again, we discuss and we put in very objective debates on, the quality of the episode, the plot progression, how good they're doing, and we take it at a very episode by episode basis. If you haven't seen by, and we debate. It's very in depth. We spend a couple hours, rightfully putting things in their place on how the episode went. And this week, again, Mob Psycho took the number 1 spot, and as you just heard, the rest of them, those are the spots they were at. there were a few notable changes this week in terms of what happened. That was severe. I mean, we had a huge drop, as everybody can see, and especially Orange, which dropped 4 spots. Orange has been pretty consistent at the top 3, top 4 spots this entire season because it's been a very good show so far in terms of quality art, especially art, music, just everything. And it dropped quite a significant amount this past. Have experienced a very good reason. I mean,
Yeah.
most of us can agree that drop quality was due to, sadly, its art.
Yep.
Yeah, it was.
Unfortunately, even though the story was there, obviously it's a really story-driven show, but the art and the animation was so incredible that it kind of took away from the concept of the story and what we were supposed to actually look into and dive into. We couldn't, or I personally couldn't actually be captivated by the story or even concentrate on it because the art was so unbelievably bad. It could make me even giggle at times when I wasn't supposed to. It was just such a downgrade, especially on a series that has been numbered top. It's been top 5, top 3 for 8 weeks straight. But then I guess this episode just wasn't important enough for them to dump budget into, and it ended like a train wreck, worse than a Sentry, or I quote Sentry, worse than a Naruto filler episode.
Yeah, it was pretty jarring, and at times it was such a drastic decrease in art quality, animation quality, that it was immersion breaking thing for a narrative focused, character drama driven story like this. And even though it had some high points, those immersion breaks were just so out of place. They could give you whiplash, if you weren't ready for them. You're coming right from the previous episode. So absolutely, the drop in quality is absolutely merited its drop in the top 10 list.
And that's a very good. I mean, Sentry, you're here, right? Yeah. So I mean, this guy here is Sentry. He's pretty much our personal expert on animation. And from an animation perspective, usually we try not to add an animation into our, definitive judging on an anime because we feel that within its own context, a show can be good with or without good animation. But I mean, Orange is one of those shows that, especially the first 5 or 4 episodes, has been really, 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 really good. And with a show like that, where you set the tone for having a great animation, great show, it's really a shocker when coming into this past episode, it looks like a completely different anime. And trying to watch it and enjoy the episode for what it is, it takes away your focus. You're distracted. It's taking away from other elements of the show, and it's really distracting. So, rightfully so, it did deserve that spot. I mean, it still was in the top 10 because, the story elements, the character development, everything still added up to being very decent. So, it did drop because of the animation quality.
Sentry.
Yeah.
How do you personally feel about the Orange animation, especially as somebody who specializes in animation and Sakuga? How do you feel? What do you think are the worst points of this week's Orange art and animation?
To be honest, it's honestly the consistency, because there were a lot of scenes within the animation, and it's something that makes people forget about other animation is every single close-up is usually done well, and then all the rest of it is inconsistent, very static. Like, I don't think 2D is the right word to use, but it looks very non-fluid and it doesn't really have life to it. Every single facial expression is just empty, to the point where they're literally doing black dots for eyes and expressions sometimes. Like, there's something called jelly animation, which they actually touch on in the Shiro Bako anime, where it's just where it's not due to any artistic failures, it's due to scheduling and people rushing, and that's what Orange has an issue with, is the scheduling of the company, and it's only gotten worse and worse. And when an anime gets worse and worse, that is due to scheduling. So
in your perspective, as Orange is reaching its climax and the peak, as we all know, it's getting to those imperative episodes. Do you see Orange recovering its animation and bringing it back up as it was in the beginning for these vital last episodes?
I can see it. I don't know about Orange manga, but usually for any anime, it will happen around the last 1 or 2 episodes. Mainly the last, because they'll have loads of frames backed up just in case for maybe like the 6th week. So I'm guessing the last episode will be fine. If not, like their own studio is probably going to give them some shit about it. So.
All right, Fally, any comments on this Orange episode? Fally?
Oh, sorry.
Alright.
My mic was stuck. What the heck? Okay, no, I'm actually sorry. My mic was actually stuck. What the fuck? Okay. Anyways, the Orange episode, it was good for what it was and everything, but like whenever we were talking about it, there were still things that I had like qualms with it because I've read the manga to it, and like it was a good episode for what it was, but just like in the manga and both in the anime too, is that I've always found that this this portion that they animated was still one of the weaker parts of it because I feel like everything else is stronger than it. So it was just an average episode and from my standards, and the animation did not help either because it had been so impressive and so heavily detailed. And that's kind of what you look for in this type of anime, especially since it's a shoujo. Not your typical shoujo, but still a shoujo. So
Agreed, and that's kind of what I said before too. Like it's just such a shock, coming in from such great animation to just the quality that we just got this past episode was almost atrocious. It looked nothing like it.
Right.
Yeah,
but
like I said,
that happens. But on the opposite spectrum, we got a very, very awesome treat this past week from our number one, which, in contrast to Orange, makes anything on this list, not even just Orange, look like, besides a certain few, just a completely different level. And that's Mob Psycho 100 with its amazing episode we just had this past week in terms of animation quality, plot development, character development, everything, just sheer blowing out of the water. It was unexpected as well because nobody was really expecting it. I know all of us walking into the top 10, especially me and Andrew, walked in thinking JoJo was going to take the number one spot. And it was close. It definitely was close. But, I thought it was amazing. How did you guys think about it?
Sentry, I want to hear, let's start with your Sakura or animation analysis. I really want to hear it.
What do I think of it?
100. Yeah. Let's hear the truth. No
I think
sugarcoating.
it's the best thing since 2015. I think every other company should look at this and pull their fucking heads out of their asses and be like, wow, innovation's good in animation. But seriously,
that rhymed. Good job.
Yeah.
But it's just a fact that the animators they had in this, I was sitting in where I am right now the other day, one of my friends in the room, and I started screaming at one point because I noticed the animation of Yutaka Nakamura, my favorite animator, and I went through the credits just to make sure it was him, and I searched for his name, I found it and just started screaming, watched the scene over and over and over again. Because I think it's so easy to tell his animation style out because he made it so prominent in One Punch Man. But it's not actually just Nakamura that was good on this episode. Like, I believe, Kamada was the animation director of this episode, and it's very prominent in everything. He did pretty much the first episode of Mob Psycho. He set out the style for the series, this sketchy, very nice, fluid. It's hard to say. It's like very experimental in the way they animate. And there's one scene which is done between Yuto, Kaneko, and Tomohiro, which are two animators which, under Kamada's rule, they're kind of like gods of animation because they're able to just do what they want. And it's the scene when Mob is literally being beaten up before he's gone 100%, and he's just being pummeled from side to side. And they do it. There's a Sakuga blog I follow, and they said it was like a cartoonish style of animation where his body is literally bending, there's smears everywhere, the expression is ugly, and it's just to add this like sense of hideous style to the beating of it. Like, you wouldn't really see it in other anime, but they try to make this scene ugly, like, because it's fighting. He's getting the shit kicked out of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting. Well,
It was just the best thing this year.
I mean, Mob really. I mean, I knew what was going to happen. I knew we were going to get a lot of information about Claw, and Mob's inner struggle between using his power against people, but having to see Ritsu actually get taken away and everything. I was not expecting it. Because Mob Psycho, what they do with the manga, they usually skip parts and then put them somewhere else. It's something weird that they're doing with the manga that I've picked up, but they followed I think they did 3 to 4 chapters, maybe 5, but they did it so well, and just the animation, like, I was enthralled. I was so into that whole fighting scene, and it was just, I mean,
my jaw literally dropped.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Was completely dumbfounded.
It was
just everything from they switched styles like 16 times to pick different scenarios and like what each feeling that he was having, each scene that was going on. Like, it was just incredible. And again, like I mean, from an animation standpoint, I mean, I can't really disagree with that being just blowing anything out of this year out of the water.
Yeah. I remember talking to Sentry in the admin group chat, and he compared it to the Boros and Saitama fight, episode 12. And the more I look at it, I actually compared the animation to both, and they weren't similar, but they were both like god tier animation, and it was just like baffling to watch this unique style being animated in such a way that it actually brings in all the like the strength of that certain, like, I guess, style that one has, and it's done so well. And it not only emphasizes satiric value, but it brings some like serious tone into it. It's really, really, I don't even know that last episode. I think I must have watched it about 4 times because it was so good, so good.
Definitely was.
I've got to say, you said you were comparing it to One Punch Man. About 4 of the animators that worked on the fight did work on One Punch Man. Like Nakamura did 36 seconds of Saitama versus Boros. He did the whole impressive bit where they shoot across a ship and the ship just blows apart and he gets kicked to the moon. He did all of that.
I can definitely see the resemblance between those two, though. Definitely, those two scenes. I thought it was very impressive. So, I mean, that was a scale that we had in terms of contrast between each week's Mob Psycho and, the bottom of the list, which was Orange. Again, we had another couple great episodes. Danganronpa, of course, made its first appearance on our list this week because of his last episode in the Despair arc, which everybody was resounding. It needed to be on there. Like I said, Shokugeki reached this climax this past week in terms of where the tournament was going, and it's the climax of the tournament, which is the climax of the entire season. Ray Zero, again, this week, an improvement from the past couple weeks. We're actually getting some focus back onto the main plot line, some input on the witch cult, some things like that.
Still not where we want to be.
Exactly. So, JoJo, of course, with his climax, going into that huge cliffhanger into this week's episode of last week of Kira, of course, the death of a very important character. And just the sheer impact of that episode. It was just a really good week we had this week. Unexpected, especially with the drop-off of course, Arsenal and Senki off our list that only had 8 episodes. And 91 Days, which was taken off the list this past week because of it was a
recap.
It was just a recap episode, yeah.
Did nothing
We're
for
all
the series.
disappointed.
definitely was. I mean, if it wasn't for that, I mean, we can pretty much say that two of those on the list wouldn't have been on there if those two series would have been on this week. But
Yup.
that's that. Next on our list, we'll be talking about some news updates that are happening, a few other. I know Isaiah brought to the table today. I don't know when he found out or when that was, but Code Geass had an announcement.
Yes, Code Geass had an announcement, and it was just announced either announced last night or today. But Code Geass is going to be having an anniversary of a miracle event that takes place on November 27th. Now, there's been like rumors of like things that are going to happen with Code Geass, like it getting like a new like Blu-ray collection, for example. And a lot of people thought that was going to be a pachinko machine, which, I mean, you can't doubt that because that's what Japan loves currently. But just with the key visual that's present for this new Code Geass event, it seems that Lelouch is the main focus in it once again. And if you think about the OVA series, which takes place between R1 and R2, what exactly is going to be present here with this new event for Code Geass? Like, does anyone actually think that they're gonna like continue off of the ending to R2 and like as a whole, or what are they doing here? Like, it's such a big topic, and even though everyone knows exactly what the ending for Code Geass is, it still makes you wonder, what are they going to bring back this time around, or what are they going to do differently, I guess.
Was you were asking us, or was that a?
I'm asking you.
Okay.
Folly, my question for this would be, what is there left to do after the end of R2? Like, what would they want to, what would they want to do after that relatively conclusive ending,
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
They left these narrative threads open, but I'm not sure if that's the right direction to go.
I mean, seeing it from the perspective of the company, I mean, they have two options: either do a side story between a break of something, which they've already done with the OVAs, that was in between R1 and R2, or make an ending. The Code Geass ended on a open-ended note for anybody who's watched season 2. You had basically two ideas of what happened, whether a certain someone had died or a certain someone had lived, and the ending, season 2 would be very imperative on which one of those endings was correct. So if there is a season 2 to happen afterwards, and if it focused on this main character, then it definitely would have to follow more events, and that would definitely be now the conclusive ending to R2. I mean, anything can really happen after that.
I'm just not sure if it's better if they give a conclusive ending to whether or not, what's his name. I mean, we're not going to use his name, whether he died or not. I mean, it was a really effective ending that, that set up this save the world, sub-theme that had been running throughout the entire climax of the arc of R2. And I thought the ending was really well done, so I'm not sure if I would want to see, as a critic, if I would want to see them compound on that ending and just say, oh, well, here's the conclusive answer. I know a lot of us feel like we know whether or not he lived or died, because they did sort of heavily imply. But it seemed to me like that was a really good ending to the series. So that's that. As a critic, that's my opinion. As a fan, I guess I of course I would love to see more Code Geass.
Sinclair, I just actually thought about it because just 1 second, Andrew. I just wanted to speak about the name real quick, but it is called Anniversary of a Miracle event, so it makes me think Anniversary of a Miracle. So as I'm thinking about it, it could take exactly what happened at the end of R2, and it could be like a time skip sort of deal. Like, people are just being like, oh, 5 years ago today, this is when that person died, and this is when the world had come back to peace or something. Like, they could do something like that, because it's Anniversary of a Miracle. So and
that would be good. I think that would be a good call.
Yeah, it would.
If they focus on that, as opposed to
I'm just expecting them to go like, oh, this happened 5 years ago, and ever since that happened, we've turned it into a slice of life.
Yes, that's what I don't want, right? Like, that's not the way.
Code Geass had a lot of slice of life elements to it in the first place. So I mean, if they did some stupid crap like that, I mean, I wouldn't put it past them. I doubt we're gonna get a full new season of anything. It's definitely gonna be some type of OVA. I can imagine.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
think
what
it's
I'm
gonna be anything like major to the series in terms of afterwards. Because I mean, if most people consider Code Geass to be a relatively really good anime over the past decade, whether it's mainstream or not. So for them to add an ending off their already successful and inconclusive, which was effective ending, and add something to it, that's a huge risk to their franchise if they're going to keep adding to it. So,
to be honest, there's a lot of things I would like the directors or the creator to expand upon, and I think if they could not necessarily a continuation, but if they could do some go back in time and flesh out some of the moments that were kind of not relatively shown that actually impacted the ending, which I don't really want to. I don't know how to say this without spoiling, but if they could actually flesh out some things, some of the moments, and do it from from another perspective, that would be great. I would like some, I guess, more indication of what happened, but I was very content with the ending. I think this ending is very engaging for the audience. We could all draw our own conclusions, but like I said, I would like more of an explanation to certain things, and if they would expand upon that in maybe a short OVA series, that would be great, and that would add depth into this already great show. And I think that's the best they could do, because I don't see a continuation benefiting the story.
I agree.
That's about it.
Exactly. I feel the same way.
I do think they have a bit of faith in the project, though, because on the Anime News Network, for the 10th anniversary, they announced new figures. They're showing off 2 new Lelouch figures.
What about any CC figures?
No, sorry, man.
Oh, come on.
That hurts me.
That's BS. Come on. Highway robbery. Come on, But yeah, I think going into some of these events that were glossed over in the series and fleshing them out is a great idea, and I'd like to see that too, as opposed to adding something to the already fantastic ending.
Agreed.
I completely agree with that, and I think that's the route that they're probably going to have to take. So yeah, another news update. Not exactly showing the details. If anybody wants to pull it up while I'm ad-libbing right now. The live-action series, it's going to be a live-action series of Your Lie in April, which, for anybody not familiar with Your Lie in April, anime that aired in 2014, the fall of 2014, it was a relatively popular anime. In terms, it was a musical, romance, tragedy that had the world taken in awe with the artwork and the sheer beauty of it, whether you want to hate this show or not.
With all the memes, I think it was the best thing that came out of the You're Lying Dog Shit anime. I'm sorry, I just have to say. Was the Kaori meme, especially the Gintama meme where Gintoki's holding the milk and the caption's Kaori with exclamation marks. I think
that was my meme. I made that meme. That was my meme. I made it.
What a legend!
I think Body Bag Chan, just the memes are great.
That's what I said. We get a live action Body Bag John. Pretty excited for that.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Oh shit! Oh man!
I'm pretty sure it. If anybody did look it up yet, it is a series. I'm pretty sure. Please, somebody confirm this for me.
It's a live action film.
Oh, it's a film. Damn it.
Okay.
I was close. So it's a live action movie, which I actually seeing is going to be a movie. I don't know how they're going to do it. They're just going to rush it even more than what it was. But, we get to hear some live action music. Hopefully some people who can actually play the violin and play the piano.
Yep.
I'm kind of mad that
And it's not
doing
news.
they're doing a Your Lie in April live action film, but there's still no Noble Noble live action.
No,
which was,
Noble Cantabile wasn't as. I mean, I can talk about it from a popular.
I think it was better. I think it was a lot better.
Yeah, comes down to the success, I guess. But yeah, I'm not sure.
It was
I wanna
definitely a better
see this
anime.
either.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think the characters were a lot better fleshed out. The relationship part was ridiculous. It was really comical at times, but then it was really serious and had a really. I mean, we're not talking about this, but anyways.
I'm sorry, were you just talking about
yeah,
the
so-
anime with like the violin bitches or whatever? I never actually watched it.
Violin bitch.
Oh, it's basically
You
the
should.
same
I would.
concept.
I mean, the
bugging.
violin bitch. There was
The
just one violin
bitches,
bitch.
man. That's great.
They literally.
I wouldn't know. I didn't watch
What's it
it.
called? Sentry, I would advise you to watch it, only to watch it from the art perspective, because the art in the show was actually really good in terms of
Yeah.
contrast,
No damn.
Yeah, it was.
color
Um,
schemes. It was a very
Character
beautifully
designs,
animated
character
show.
designs.
Uh,
Really good character designs.
Yes, and
Yeah.
it was such a. They did it in such a way where you couldn't even tell that the way that it's almost like art in terms of how they're portrayed. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think-
I would advise watching.
I'll
No,
check
I
it
think
out.
really that Your Lie in April took the. It's literally the same. Not the same, but the same premise as No Damn Cantable. But oh well.
In other news, we got some two bigger announcements. The one less bigger than the other. But first, I know I'm personally. I mean, I dropped this manga years ago. Dropped it, and I watched the anime up until about episode 200 when they were done with it. Totoro's arc, and that's
Oh,
Fairy
man.
Tail.
Yup.
As everybody's looking at this week, we had the death. I'm not even gonna. It's not even a spoiler at this point because everybody's crying.
Yeah.
And talking about it. We had a very important character, and nobody dies in the show anyway. And that was Juvia. She had died. I don't really
Yeah,
know
she's
much
not
too about
even
it, but I know
really
she
dead,
died, and
though.
everybody's sad.
Not even really dead. I mean,
But is she dead?
She's alive.
Is she dead?
She can
Okay, this is the
talk.
thing. No, she cannot talk. This is the
She's
thing.
in his blood, right? She talked to him.
What do you? I think you need to go back and reread that chapter, but the
No,
thing
that's
is,
what happened. Am I wrong? Like, she talks to him from his blood, and she's like, I mastered this, forbidden blood magic or whatever, so that I could continue to live if you ever died. And she was already on the ground, face down by that point. She's like, I'll continue to live from within you.
but she's not gonna, dude. Like, this is the thing. Fairy Tail is structured to the point where multiple characters can bring back dead people.
Right.
That's how it's structured, and the fact that me, out of all people, is actually following this, I'm not gonna lie, I actually really like the chapter. I mean,
Yeah, me too.
structural wise, it was really good. It's just the fact that Fairy Tail has no credentials and has no credibility whatsoever, like at all.
Well,
Nobody
she's not,
dies.
but like, she's in his blood, so she's gonna come back. So she's not really dead. Like, she's just, I don't know. She's in his blood, and she's gonna come back. So I don't know. I wouldn't even really say she's dead. She's dead. We have no evidence that says that anyone ever dies in this show. Like,
Well, the last few panels, literally, the last few panels was Gray holding Juvia in his hands and asking her to wake up, and she
Yeah.
wouldn't wake up, and then it's what's his fuck boy just like raging. So
fuck boy.
this is yeah, this is a nice touch on Gray. I like how they're giving him a personalization arc, and I don't know. There's not many good things you could say about Fairy Tail, but this chapter in itself was decent. Although, as Sinclair mentioned, it's fucking Fairy Tail. No one fucking dies.
No one dies. Yeah. And like, she did this blood magic. Then she says, I'm gonna continue to live in you, basically, and that just tells me that she's coming back. I mean, so like when I'm reading that from a narrative structure perspective, I'm just looking at this. I'm thinking, there's no reason for that to be there if she's not gonna come back. if she, if she's going to continue to live on in his blood or whatever, like obviously she's not going to be in his blood talking to him in his head, but she's in his blood, and she's going to quote unquote live on in him. She's going to come back. Like that's gotta be the interpretation that we as audience members and readers have, at least from my perspective.
Well, I want to interrupt there, but this same thing was done in Rave Master. Hiro Mashima literally rehashes story elements from Rave Master within Fairy Tail. And so, the thing about it is that in Rave Master, and there's going to be spoilers here, but in Rave Master, there was a character named Musica. He is a silver charmer. Basically, he makes silver, like silver make. It's kind of like ice make, but with silver. So he ended up kind of having feelings for an antagonist, and she was a part of the antagonist group Oration Sace. And, Oration Sace actually exists inside Fairy Tail too. But Oration Sace inside Rave Master actually ended up dying. Some of our members ended up dying. But so the person that Musica ended up being in love with was also a silver charmer. Things were going to happen, and they were both going to die. He protected her, so then in return, she ended up giving up her life to protect him, and he ended up inheriting more of her silver charming powers. So she never came back, but he did inherit her powers. So even if Juvia exists within Gray's blood and spoke to him at that one given point in time, even if you can interpret something from that, literally Gray is basically the Musica of Fairy Tail. So Juvia is going to be that love interest that doesn't return, and it adds to Gray's character a whole lot, honestly. So
because we didn't really have much.
We'll see.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, I agree.
Later.
I mean, that's a really good point, Folly, that did happen in Rave Master. I didn't even remember that because I read it so long ago. But one way or the other, I mean, yeah, that would be a good development for his character. It would leave a lot of unanswered plot threads with their whole romance thing, and I think a lot of people would be unhappy. But I would be interested to see that, and I think it would be something no one saw coming, and in that way, it would be something of a coup by Mashima. So yeah, there's that. But we'll see.
I think the impact itself. I mean, being somebody from an outsider perspective, I think from a structural point, in terms of them, killing off characters, bringing them back, killing off characters, bringing them back, the shock value of killing off a character that you expect to be coming back but not coming back will be a shock in itself.
Yeah, that would be huge, especially after what's happened so many times with Jalal, and it's so we've had Zancro is the one character that died, but he's back too now, through Nine Hearts historic, magic or something. I don't know. We'll see, but that would be a coup if she just died, stayed dead. One of these major romantic leads just dead. That would be huge.
I think we should all make a vote. Dante, do you think Juvia is dead or is not? Okay.
Dante is not here.
Dante's not.
Chris, do you think Juvia is dead or not?
I don't know.
All right. Well, then.
I don't really have a say because.
I would like to think that she's dead, because if Hiro Mashima does bring her back for some basically ass-pulling means, I will literally drop this manga. I don't care how long I've been following it for. I've been fucked over by too many manga recently, and it's really getting tiring. I'm basically losing faith in Shonen Jump as a whole. Ugh,
That's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah, that's a whole.
I know. I'm just saying, but it doesn't mean I'm not gonna drop this manga. I will literally drop it if he brings her back, because that's so disrespectful to her actual death. Hey, you know what? They've already killed off Gray technically inside the manga before. And so, hey, what did they do? They brought him back. And, it's that sent Juvia into, some traumatic, state. But it was, only for one chapter. And it's oh, well, that's something. They've been building up this bond for so long. Same with, a bunch of other characters. But to just sit there and throw it away by bringing her back because it's just oh, I can't leave my characters dead. I can't leave any of my characters dead. Oh yeah, like I will be so mad if it's just disappointing.
I think if that's the case, like you need to stop writing. If you can't make your manga interesting without bringing in that device to kill off characters, which is an impact for readers during a chapter. If you're talking about monthly Shonen Jump for weekly readers, that's a huge impact. And if you can't write a decent manga without making these ass pull plot device, killings, then you just need to stop writing. And that's my
exactly
opinion.
what I think.
We just saw Gajeel come back, like just a couple chapters. He was dead, and then he was back, and it was another asshole.
I'd actually like to confirm. I'd actually like to confirm this, but Gajeel and Levy had like actually a spin-off light novel where it was them married and they had children. So he couldn't have. Yeah, he couldn't have killed off like Gajeel for permanently at all. Like he couldn't have done any of that because
was that canon though?
Yeah, that light novel is supposed to be a canon
spin-off,
thing, and
right?
it's a spin-off, but it's canon still. It's just kind of like it's them, but in the future of like children. And
Did he write it?
He should have. I was also on Tumblr.
If he didn't write it, I mean, and it's considered a spin-off, and it's not canon. Yeah.
If he didn't write it, then it's not canon.
Even if it's considered a spin-off, it doesn't mean it's not canon. But I'd have to go.
If he could have somebody else write it and then declare it canon. But if he didn't declare it canon and somebody else just wrote it and it's a spin-off, then it's not canon.
Well, we would have to look into that, but I mean,
this person on Tumblr who does fairy tale art, like I showed you guys before that. That Rusky Boz guy who's always doing fairy tale art. He has an official Twitter and stuff too. He also has a Patreon. He like posted some art of Gajeel and Levy with their kids, and he even said that it came from inspiration from that light novel about Gajeel and Levy having kids together. And so like I was thinking. No, it's actually a real thing, though. But
we could look into that. Like, we would have to look into that and confirm that. Definitely. That's really interesting for one. I mean, for my vote, I'm gonna say that she's gonna come back. I mean, once you have one character come back from the dead, once you do that any one time in a story, that's establishing a precedent for the rest of your story that characters can come back to life and the death isn't permanent. And I mean, even if you do have a character that dies, that would be a really interesting development. I think that would be a good way to take the story, but I'm going to say my vote is that she's probably going to come back. I'm not going to be shocked if she does.
That's a really good point, too. I mean, in terms of, like, a show where, again, you set up a premise where death isn't serious. You've already said that multiple times, that death is not serious.
Tons of
times.
Though
it would be good development for, let's say, Gray and other characters in terms of its impact. But in terms of the story premise, now you're giving another aspect. It's a double-edged sword. It's a plot device either way. If you can't bring her back, how did you bring up these other characters, and why did you do it? So, and if you keep her dead, I mean, if you do bring her back, how come you have to keep bringing her back? That takes away, the sheer impact that you're trying to get in the first place. So it's a bad double-edged sword for him. It's a very bad double-edged sword, and either way for them. Once you bring a character back that there's already been precedents that characters don't die, then it's
exactly.
I mean, or sorry, vice versa. You automatically destroyed your story. It doesn't make sense anymore. It's like Dragon Ball Z. People die in Dragon Ball Z all the time, but you know that the Dragon Balls are there. I mean, this is a very vague example, but are very direct. People die in Dragon Ball all the time. They don't make the deaths that epic. I mean, serious or mourningful, but when they die, they can come back to life. And if they don't, it's an ass pull because they can.
Exactly.
That's what's happened many times.
The thing is, as my closing point, we have seen, like I've said before we even entered this, we have seen almost literally every single main character die once. We saw Gray die. Of course, Old Tier reversed that bullshit. We saw
Jalal die.
Okay, Sinclair. We saw Jalal die in a parallel universe, but whatever. We saw Mary Jane's sister die. We saw Lucy die. We saw Gajeel die recently, which she was dead for a little bit, but then got brought back because
5 chapters.
What do you know? It's fucking fairy tale, and like what we said, it has no credentials whatsoever. And if Julia can stay dead, honestly, as much as I hate Fairy Tail, and I think it's a shit manga, I would feel for Julia because she's one of the more developed characters in the cast. But I don't see it happening. I think, like I said, Fairy Tail has no credentials. It has no
I think
credibility.
either way
It
it's
has
a bad thing.
Yep.
Either
it
way
is what
it's
it
bad.
is. You can't expect too much from Fairy Tail. You got to take it. You got to take the little ups and just take it for what it is.
Yeah,
'cause
exactly.
We're not
But
gonna
is
get
it an up
anything
or is it a
amazing.
down? I mean, we don't even know. Like, is it an up or is it a down? I guess for weekly readers, it's an up. But that's for any death scene, even if it comes back or not. The chapter that the death's in is an up in terms of
Do you
impact.
understand how bad Fairy Tail manga is? This is like
No, I that's why I
For
don't.
me-
That's why I don't read it anymore. There's a reason
For
why I
me-
don't read it.
for me. I'll take this. I'll accept it because after the Tartarus arc with fucking Urza, I was done. I was like, dude, I'm done. Like
That leads me to
joke.
believe. I don't know. Even if this does happen permanently, I'll never pick it back up.
I'm gonna keep reading it either way, but like,
Same.
we'll see.
I have to finish it. I spent too much time on it to just drop it.
yeah, I feel you, man.
Yep. Well, that's that.
Alrighty. Well, I mean, in terms of other great and amazing long-running shonens, this coming week we have the ending of a mainstream, amazing legend coming to an end that we all love, we all hold dear to our hearts. And though the manga ended 2 years ago, we have the ending of the anime next week. It's either next week or the week after. I heard there's a rumor that it might go an extra week, but next week should be the final episode, and that's Naruto.
Yeah.
And, you know, from a personal standpoint, I've been like I know a lot of people have. This is a gateway anime for a lot of people in our generation. You know, gateway anime. You know, growing up on it. You know, I started watching Naruto in 2004. I was in 4th grade, and it's been something that I've watched and I've loved. You know, as a kid, growing up into my teens, following it, and it's something that I could never stop following, only because it is my childhood. You know, whether Naruto was bad or good, whether it was corny or not, whether it was, you know, it wasted 2 years of my childhood waiting and expecting something to happen when they gave me 2 years of filler. You know, whether the show is what it was, but it's finally ending. And after since 1999, the manga first started. You know, 2003 or 2 since the anime started. It's been over 15 years.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, that was quite a heartfelt, touching speech you just gave there. I'm pretty sure
Whether, you
all
know,
of us,
Boruto's garbage.
Right.
we're not even going to talk
Is
about
it all
the
of us look
ass pull.
right?
No, we're not even going to talk about the ass pull of Boruto. That's just a money pull. But anyway,
No, I'm saying, like, you know,
no.
that even knowing that that's the future, like, I'm still going to cry knowing that this is over. And it's finally
We all
over.
know how
It's
it's going
been
to end.
Yeah, I mean, it deserves respect for what it's accomplished
Well,
and for what
hell
it's
no.
meant to a lot of people.
Boruto
we
doesn't
do know how
exist.
it's going to end. I mean, the manga does exist for a reason. And, you know, the video game and Ultimate Ninja Storm, you know, kind of gave us the ending too. So the ending's pretty much set in stone. You know, you have the sequel, which is Boruto, giving you the guidance, which tell you kind of what happens right afterwards. You know, it's set in stone how it's going to end, but it's just it's the fact that it is ending is what's the shock.
Well, I mean, we have seen Naruto for 15 years now. It's been separated into 2 parts. When the manga is 700 chapters of just continuation, and actually, as we all can agree, the manga is a lot better. The thing about Naruto is, it lost its relevance. And even though it's one of the big 3, and probably will continue to be until something else arises in Shonen Jump that is prominent, a lot of Naruto fans, or a lot of anime watchers, just they took too long.
They did.
It is
Definitely.
what it is. It took way too long. For the 600 episodes or whatever it may be, over 200.
They spent
chapters,
200 episodes on this last arc.
Yeah, over 200 episodes.
That should
of filler.
say enough right there. I wouldn't say filler.
No, filler. Not in this arc, but in the entirety of Shippuden.
Oh
Over 200
yes.
And that's ridiculous.
200 episodes of filler for Shippuden, 75 episodes of filler for the original series. That's almost half your series full of. That is over half of your series full of filler.
Yeah, it's insane. It's pretty much insane.
And I not necessarily that I blame the anime for doing what they did. I really don't.
They have no respect for the manga. They have no respect for the manga.
Well, I wouldn't even say that. There was really no option for them. As you know, the manga's been going on since 1999. They had 700 chapters exactly on the mark. 2 years ago, this manga ended in 2014. Since then, since it ended, everything that's been airing, there was one filler arc that was like 30 episodes long. But in terms of following what needed to be done, I mean, the manga was being adapted as it was, and I'm talking about pre being it over, the manga being over. When the manga was still running, they can't end the anime before the manga ends, so they have to keep going. And for a long-running shonen like that, yeah, you have the option to split it up into seasons and stop it, hiatus, whatever. But for Naruto specifically, One Piece, all these other shows, you really can't stop it. And then when you do stop it, you have shows like Bleach that people are pissed at that the anime's ended so they can let something catch up or whatever, and then it just falls into ultimate hiatus and it might not ever start again. And it's a long-running shonen where you can't stop the anime. And they had to keep it running with the manga, but they also couldn't catch up to the manga. So yeah, it's a fact where they had to. It was a necessity. Though it was a money scheme, I wouldn't even consider it a money scheme. They just had to. As long as the manga kept running, especially as long as it did, they had to keep running the anime.
Yeah, but the quality of the filler in a lot of places, like they could have put more into the production values and the quality of the filler, in my opinion.
I will say that some of the filler was actually interesting, especially in the last 50 episodes or so.
Yeah, I didn't watch
the last 50 episodes or so.
It was unnecessary.
They've done some filler. I wouldn't say that. They've done fillers on Itachi. They've done filler on what's the name? That's not a far fetch though. Think about it. That's not a far fetch. Naruto ended less than 2 years ago, and the anime is ending now. In terms of how far the manga was ahead and what they needed to do adapt, I mean, it's not that far off in terms of production-wise.
No, this is the thing. It is a money scheme. Listen, it is a money scheme because the manga ended, but yet they continued to give the dozens and dozens and dozens of filler episodes. Continuously, just kept going at it and didn't give the fans a break until recently. And then we had a little bit of a streak of canon episodes, and then they kept going with the filler. And that in itself,
I will I don't agree with that at all. I mean, I do agree that it is a money scheme. It is everything that you see on anime. Anime is a money scheme. That is what anime is, and we discussed this in previous weeks. But I will defend. Everybody was complaining about the Infinite filler Yomi arcs. But that was really the only arc that was really filler-wise. And the Infinite Tsukiyomi arc in the anime happened pretty much right after the anime ended. I mean, the manga ended. The manga ended in November of 2014. The filler arc started. The Tsukiyomi arc started in 2015 winter, and it was about in terms of what the manga did, they couldn't catch up right away because they were already a certain amount of space behind. Because the anime can't catch up with the manga, so it was always a certain amount of space behind. And the Tsukiyomi arc, the manga did cover that there was stuff going inside the Tsukiyomi arc that the manga did depict that the anime extended over. I think they did drag that out a little too long. It was about maybe 20-something episodes. But after that happened, every filler that happened after the Tsukiyomi arc into the fight, blah blah blah, was really relevant. It was very relevant filler. You had, like I said, the Itachi filler. You had the what's it called? The two brothers, the filler arcs, the arcs on what's her name herself, and they were all filler because they weren't canon to the material, but they extended on their characters. They gave backgrounds.
Okay, now let me ask you this, Chris. Did the anime succeed as an adaptation?
No. Actually, yes. Yes, it did. In terms of
Come on, bro.
In terms of what? In terms of what? In terms of production, money wise, or in terms of staying true to the manga?
what an adaptation and what the meaning
No.
of an adaptation is supposed to be.
Well, see, here's also the
Bias,
thing with
man.
Naruto. Without the filler, let's take out all the filler in Naruto. Naruto adapts the manga pretty accurately. What kills Naruto is the filler, and it's the shit tons of filler. But if you were to take the filler out of the anime, which is 200-something episodes, you really can't just take it out. But if you were to take it out, it does follow the manga pretty accurately.
And
I mean, it doesn't really drive off the
story. And it would be an exceptional story, but the fact that there's filler in places where it should go ahead and
most of the filler that happens in the story, though, most of that filler is usually, it's not deriding the story. It's usually just it's not like adding to it. It's not adding to the events that's happening. It's literally even giving us flashbacks. It's giving us alternate scenarios. It's giving us stuff so that from
the story stagnant.
But hey, from a production standpoint, you have whenever you make an adaptation on a long-running shonen, you have three options. You only have three options. You have one option is to split up into seasons, and you have to do that from the start. The other option is to put tons of filler into it, but okay, sorry. There's four options. You either put tons of filler into it that have to do with the story, like Naruto does. Either three, you go on hiatus, you cut it off, and you take a 4-year break, and you let the manga catch up. Or number four, you make filler. I mean, you make an alternate scenario. You make an alternate ending. That's your fourth scenario. You make an alternate ending, and it's completely different from the manga. You have four of those options. Those are the four options you're given to you when you adapt a long-running shonen. And all of those options are, in terms of fans, in terms of what we want, are not what we want. We don't want the show to go on a full hiatus. We don't want seasons, especially with a long-running show like that. It just wouldn't make any sense. I mean, you'd be doing seasons for years. It would literally take 20 years to do that if you did it in seasons, because it's already been 15 years now. It would take forever. Four, I mean, if you change the ending, people are going to bitch that it didn't go. You have Full Metal Alchemist that didn't follow the ending. You have a bunch of other shows that don't follow the manga and make their own original ending, and that's what people don't want. And then you have four where you put filler in, but the filler doesn't affect the story.
But it doesn't
most of the filler in Naruto doesn't affect. Yeah, but that's the thing, though. Like, you don't have any other option. From their perspective.
No one wants
you
a
don't
hiatus.
have an option. This was probably their best decision to do, is make filler that did not mess up the story. All it did was give you little, it dragged the story out, but it didn't really drag the story out. It basically went on hiatus. That's what it did. It went on hiatus, but it gave you backgrounds, other things. It gave you funny little, random side stuff, all kinds of things. And that's what filler is. But did it derail the story? No. Did it alter the story? No. Did they go on hiatus and go on a 4-year break and completely just shit on everything? No. From a perspective of how they follow the manga, yes, they succeeded in adapting the manga pretty accurately, but they had to add filler in because it's a long-running shonen, and you have other shows like One Piece that does it. They do it a certain way where, I mean, I don't really follow One Piece.
Do not compare One Piece to Naruto, because they are both, as One Piece being a lot longer than Naruto. That is what a long running shonen should be. Of course, the animation is horrible.
That's due to the manga. Because the only way they're able to do that is because the manga in each chapter gives enough information that they're able to adapt it like that. It's all, if you're gonna go back into for a long running shonen, yes. Because what other option did they have? They had to either add filler to it or add extra stuff, which One Piece does do. They add extra stuff, and that's not adapting the source material properly. I mean, you are adding things, or they're literally adapting the chapters slowly, which that affects the pacing of the story. There's always going to be something for a long running show that will affect the anime, because you don't have many options, and people are going to be dissatisfied no matter what you do. Some people hate One Piece because of the pacing. People think One Piece is the slowest piece of shit on the earth. It's literally the slowest thing that ever exists on the planet. And One Piece is interesting at certain times, but that's the problem with One Piece, is the pacing. The problem with Naruto is filler. The problem with Bleach is the hiatus. The problem with Hunter x Hunter is the hiatus. You have these long running shows that have these problems, and the only way to do it is to pick an option. And Naruto, if you're going to ask me, and how we discussed it the other week is what makes an anime successful in terms of adapting, Naruto adapted its source material accurately, but it added other things that keep the production going because they didn't have another option, and they didn't want to choose one of the other cop-outs or options because there was no way to really extend upon the story like One Piece does.
Does that make it good?
Does that make it good? If you were to take out the filler or take out the irrelevant filler, Naruto,
you can't do that. You can't take out. You can't just pretend the last 8 years worth of content didn't happen.
You can't. I mean, from a story's perspective, you can. If you're watching a story or reading a story, and there's other stuff in the story that has nothing to do with the story, do you count that as part of the story if it has nothing to do with it? No. So if you're judging it for being a story, you're judging it for character development, and nothing else really affects it besides what's being present, regardless of filler. It adapted what it needed to do, and it did it successfully. I mean, in terms of keeping Naruto relevant for 17 years and keeping it amazing with tons of video games, the manga, the show, the anime, the everything, keeping it relevant and keeping it for young generations, older generations, people of all ages, they did succeed in making Naruto. The story is, I mean, if you take out the filler and you just watch it for the story or read it for the story, Naruto's story is compelling. It's, a good story. It's you can call it generic now, but when it was written, it wasn't generic because it was one of the first ones of its kind to do that. So it's kind of where Naruto, yes, it pissed me off and I wasted years of my life watching filler, but is it bad?
You can no. Yeah. Okay. Listen. Even in the story itself, you can pick out flaws. Even in the story in itself, you can pick out countless flaws.
Of course. I'm saying, but you asked me, did it succeed? You asked me, did it succeed? And yes, it did. It did succeed.
I would say, before we should move on. But I would say that, of course, if you take the filler out, it's going to improve the quality. It improves the quality of Naruto dramatically because the quality of the filler is way subpar compared to the quality of the Naruto that was adapted straight from the manga. And that's obvious. If you take the filler out, Naruto is much better. If you have to assess the filler along with the rest of Naruto, it's much worse. But we should move on.
More shows should take inspiration from JoJo, keeping true to the manga since David Productions.
And Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah, but look at JoJo. Look at JoJo though. I mean, JoJo, of course, JoJo's amazing, but JoJo took over 20 years to make an adaptation. That derives from.
That is
but that derives.
That is
of course, they could have found an art style to
censorship
properly portray it. Yeah, of course. But in terms of success, initial success, and in terms of keeping things relevant, I mean, if it wasn't for JoJo being over 30 fucking years long, I mean, let's be real, that doesn't really happen very often. If it wasn't for JoJo being ongoing and still running and still it wouldn't do anything. Making that anime would just be for it would be just for shits and giggles because they wanted to make an anime about it. But they wouldn't have any, it wouldn't spur the manga on because the manga would be over. It wouldn't do anything in terms of what an anime is supposed to be doing. It's a very special case. I mean, it took 20 years for them to do it. So in terms of them starting it when the anime started, even if you took a 4-year break, which is kind of reasonable, 2 years, it's literally negating the whole point of what anime is. But that's because, JoJo's manga is still running. So it does help them out in that sense.
Yeah, that's a unique case.
Very special
they had
case.
Censorship problems, though. It did have an anime.
What does that have to do with anything?
It had an anime in the 90s, but that couldn't come over to the West due to censorship. Same with the manga. That's why it was.
I mean, even if you're going to take the anime is bad.
Listen, this is the thing. Yeah, it was really bad. I'm not even gonna lie. It's
really
fucking
bad.
Horrible.
What, the 90s one?
But this is the thing.
The OVA.
This is the thing. Why is just Dante? Why the thing about JoJo and comparing it to Naruto?
You brought up Naruto.
Japan,
you brought up JoJo.
Oh, I didn't. It was Dante, but
Dante.
I don't know why he brings JoJo into everything. But this is the thing. The thing about JoJo is that in its time, it was one of the most popular mangas, and it hasn't. The fact because of censorship problems, it hasn't actually went outside of of the West. It hasn't really gone outside
You
of
mean the
Japan,
yeah.
but the popularity is still there. And the thing is, JoJo, the reason they couldn't adapt it, and has been said many times, is because of the art style. I mean, they didn't have the technology, and they couldn't replicate Araki's art style perfectly, or else there would have been a long running shonen. But that's not the case. That's just completely irrelevant to this conversation.
But also look how JoJo does it. JoJo splits it up into seasons and the parts, but it's able to do that because the freaking manga is over 20 years long, so they don't care about the time restrictions of catching up to the manga. That is completely irrelevant. Like there's no reason to compare them.
Yeah, it's not a concern. It's off the table. But
why
it's
was
also
JoJo even
important-
brought up in the first place?
Well,
I don't know. I'm just telling you why it's irrelevant.
Because it follows the manga. But like, in my opinion, I mean, this is a really interesting question to ask. Obviously, it's going to be different for depending on who you ask. But it's important to remember that Naruto serves to get a lot of people into anime, especially in America. It's like we call it one of the big three. In Japan, that's not really a thing. So I mean, like, it does serve a purpose, one way or the other, and it serves this purpose of getting people into other anime through it. We use the word gateway anime. That's a good term that describes the phenomenon well. People read Naruto, and as a result, they look for other anime that may be similar or branch out. And that's an important function, and it's good that it has the popularity it does, and it serves that purpose well. And whether or not you think that the filler was necessary, or that it did well, or was an effective adaptation, or whatever, those are good questions. But I think the important thing that Naruto has done is that it has gotten a lot of people into anime, and that it's been successful.
I can agree with that.
And, expanding off of that, just shortly, and for a gateway anime, for an anime that brings kids in, brings whatever, for generations now, did Naruto is that a show, filler aside, is that a show that you would be ashamed to show people in terms of the Japanese culture, anime culture? Because like it's a flagship anime. It's literally representing hundreds of anime, thousands of anime. It literally represents, for gateway people watching in, it represents it.
Yeah,
and taking away the filler aside,
genre.
So is it terrible? Is it bad? Is it something that as a gateway anime, is it bad for our gateway? I don't think so. I think it does its job perfectly.
I think
it does its job perfectly.
Okay.
The thing is, I think Naruto for the anime, in my personal opinion, is really mediocre. Taking everything into consideration, not only the story but everything that it is. I think it's a good way to start anime. It's just something that people, after they get more, I guess they have more knowledge of the matter. It's a show that typically the more knowledgeable fellas actually start dropping and start realizing that there's better things out there. But for a starter, it's a very good series.
And not even just for starter at all, too. You said for people who would watch more stuff and branch off to other things. Well, Naruto's something where it's not something that could have just stopped. It's something that the manga has decided to just keep going. So
it doesn't matter. Everything taken into consideration, everything.
I'm saying like from you. There's not a lot of shows that go on this long that are able to do what it does. So when people get aggravated or think Naruto's crap because they don't, first of all, Naruto is one of the only shows that go this long in this generation, this decade, these last 2 decades. And that's somewhat, the story is decent, but it's still one of those shows where it's, it's mainstream, people don't like it. It's something that keeps dragging out, people don't like it. The story might be a little generic now because it's running so long that it's become generic. Or mediocre and not original anymore because it's been running so long. There's other things that have done it. But I mean, I'm just taking all those points into consideration.
But no, people that actually judge Naruto for it being mainstream, I think it's just stupid. I think Naruto should be judged for the story itself and what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, the manga. But even the manga itself has a lot of ass-pulls and a lot of things that should be judged and should be.
Of course. I'm not going to say Naruto is an amazing show.
We can all agree
it's
on
very
that.
mediocre.
7 out of 10, a tops.
But you asked me what it was. Did it succeed in being an adaptation?
I think we already passed that. I think we already passed.
I'm just saying that. That's what you asked me. I didn't say Naruto was an amazing anime. You asked me, did it succeed in adapting? And the anime. That's what we were talking about. It's ending next week, and I think it did. And that was the point.
I think Naruto.
We can all agree that Naruto's mediocre. We can all agree that it dragged on too long. We all agree the story was okay, but did it adapt? And I think it adapted fine for being what it was.
The filler needed
Sure,
to stop.
let's leave it at that.
But yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
The next.
I personally
hell,
think the manga's good.
I mean, so
Okay,
and
Dante.
we have all these shows ending or that have been ending. We touched upon this before in the last couple weeks. We were talking about it. All these shows that are ending. You have Naruto ending. I mean, the manga already ended, but you have
Bleach
Fairy
ending?
Tail ending soon.
Naruto.
Wait, what?
Bleach
Bleach
ended
ended.
already.
Fairy Tail's
you
not
have-
Shonen Jump.
Oh, Fairy Tail's not Shonen Jump? Okay, sorry.
Fairy
I don't
Tail's
read
ending?
it.
Yes.
You have
Oh,
my
Fairy
God.
Tail's not ending, but
Nisekoi.
yeah, we're talking about Jump.
Nisekoi ending. It ended. Bunch of other shows that have been long-running shows for Shonen Jump that have been really popular that are just ending. And without these big names and Shonen Jump, what will Shonen Jump have?
Right,
What
exactly.
will they have to offer?
Boku no
And
Hero?
what can they keep doing? I mean, all you can do is you have Boku no Hero Academia, Black Clover who are in there that are decent. Black Clover is mediocre. Boku no Hero is decent. But is that really enough to really keep dragging out the Shonen Jump magazine unless they decide one month or 1 year to just introduce a whole crap ton of new mangas that are trial and error all at
This
once?
is the thing,
that's
Chris.
basically
Yeah, like, is this enough for them to stay as relevant as they have been with all these massive, successful, profitable names? Are these meager offerings enough? Is this enough?
What about
This is the thing. This is the thing. It has a name for itself. Shonen Jump has been one of the most prominent magazines for decades, over 5 decades, and the name itself screams power, and it stands above, and just everything that has accomplished. Just the name itself, and I think it can just do trial and error and find something completely amazing that everybody will love, and keep on going. Because even if all these shows are ending, I don't see it going under the water. Of course, the quality of the magazine is going to go down for a couple of years because it's going to take a few years for it to find those series. And of course, we still have One Piece, which is the best-selling manga of all time.
Oh yeah,
And
not
it's one of
close.
its pillars. We have Hunter x Hunter with whenever it comes back, even though it's on hiatus a lot, it's very prominent shonen and one of the most it's one of the key things in Shonen Jump, and we have the runner-ups, which is Black Clover, Boku no Hero, etc. Haikyuu.
Speaking of Hunter x Hunter, though, with it being such a prominent shonen, the thing about it is that Togashi was like in an interview with Kishimoto already, and he was talking about a new series apparently. And I'm like thinking, why would he be talking about a new series at this point? And then Togashi, there was like another article that apparently Togashi is hiring more writers for Hunter x Hunter. So, what do you think about that? And what's he really doing here? Is he just screwing everyone over by doing this?
Well, oh my god, I am a huge Hunter x Hunter fan. I am huge. It's like
I just watched it recently, and it's up there. It's my top 10 as well.
It's literally my second favorite anime. But this is the thing. Togashi has such a style of writing that I have confidence. He can take as many hiatuses as he wants as long as the last arc, which I think it is going to be the last arc. I think the main goal of Gon
I have
has
my
already been.
reserves about that.
I definitely don't. I mean, Gon met Jing, and that was his main goal, and now we're expanding upon his dream. Jing's dream is why he left Gon, and that is what.
I know. I think the execution of this arc is a little weird. Especially the beginning of it, a little rushed, stuff like that.
I think it's very slow paced.
But I think what Togashi needs, we're a little off topic, but in terms of what Togashi needs, I think Togashi needs to keep writing, but he needs to hire people to do the art. I think he needs to get off his high horse. He needs to, let people help him.
Let
him take as long as he wants.
The thing is right
he can
here.
Take 20 years.
We're not talking about hiatus or anything, but just the fact
Does
that
a hiatus make
kind-
Shonen Jump okay?
No, it's not. That's not what
Yeah.
that's not what we're like talking about. It's like what I was mentioning.
Well, no,
was
that is what we're talking about.
What I was mentioning was that Togashi is planning on like hiring new writers, and he was already talking about like a new series. Like with how much like he goes on hiatus as it is, why would he be talking about a new series? And why would he also be talking about hiring new writers? That's just like
I think
it's
he's
kind
gonna
of like-
rush this ending.
yeah, I feel
That's-
like it's going to be rushed if that's what he's talking about currently. If that's what he's
It's
talking
already
about,
being rushed.
yeah,
It's already
it's
being
not.
rushed. It is.
He has so
It
much
definitely
set up.
is.
Are you caught
I
up?
mean, you've
Are
been
you literally caught up on the last two chapters?
you've been reading it. I know, but you've been reading it since longer than I have. I watched it and read it all in one go, so I was able to see it literally transition and see it happening right there. And from what I saw, the transition was sloppy. It was rushed. A lot of things, and I already voiced my concerns about it in the past. Talking to you, Andrew, and we're not going to get into that too much, but I've already said it. It's just it's being rushed, and if this is true, and if he's taking these hiatuses, if he's taking these 2 years hiatuses, either to gather his thoughts, to gather his ideas, why is it even remotely appearing like this, comparatively to all his past arcs and all his past writing? Why is it even appearing like this? Either one, he's just doing it for the money and he doesn't care anymore. Two, he's milking it. Three, he doesn't care anymore. And he's going to start something new. So it's a little bit concerning to me exactly what he's going to do. You're going to say, oh, he could take 20 years. Well, I don't want to see Hunter x Hunter going like this for 20 more years.
Yeah, that's disconcerting.
This is the thing. Although the beginning was a little bit sloppy, as soon as the Hisoka and Corolla fight ended, as soon as it ended, it branched out into very
It did, but we only got
it's
10. We
reminiscent.
only got 8 chapters, 8 more chapters after the Hisoka, ended. That wasn't enough for me to solidify Hunter x Hunter. This arc is amazing. It's worth the hiatus. I don't care if it takes 20 years. No,
It's not even,
especially with the previous 24
24
chapters being
We
like
haven't
that.
even started
Exactly.
it. Dude, we're
But from what
literally-
I've seen, it's rushed and the transitions are bad. That's all
we're
I'm
not
saying.
Dude, we're not even in the. We haven't even hit the tip of the iceberg of what the Dark Continent arc is. This is still.
So
an
what are you
introduction.
saying that it's? What are you saying then?
You're saying it's rushed, but
So-
everything is being set up. Everything, literally, it's still being set up. It's nothing like they're already executing.
Yeah, but a
things.
lot of it's ass pulls. A lot of it doesn't make sense. A lot of it's being just given. They're literally just introducing plot devices to keep the story moving on. I already voiced my concerns about this to you before. We talked about this in depth, especially the beginning part. A lot of things that are just being thrown at you. The transition between the Jing arc and the new arc was just really bad. And in terms of, we're saying here that this hiatus is what is going to keep him going, and if it's going to take him as long as he wants, then he can take as long as he wants to make a quality work. But if he's taking as long to give us that kind of work, what are we on hiatus for?
Yeah.
And is that
Let's be
beneficial
real.
to anything? And
Let's
it's
be
not.
real. Togashi just doesn't like the series anymore. That's how it
Oh,
is.
Right, so that literally shows in his writing. That shows in his writing. That shows in what he's doing. It
But-
shows that he's rushing. These decisions he's going to make is going to affect the future of Hunter x Hunter, and inadvertently, affect the future of Shonen Jump.
Okay.
He literally
Does
aired these past 30 chapters or 12 chapters in Shonen Jump and hit record sales because people wanted.
Exactly.
But
I was just
what are we waiting?
Literally. So this volume has sold over 15.
And are we going to amount popularity? Are we going to
with
amount
quality?
popularity to quality?
No,
I don't
we're
think
not.
so.
We're not. But the fact that he's selling so much means that it's in demand and people want more. And maybe
It is, but
the more
it's all about
more-
what the author
That's-
wants to
dude,
do. That's not the point.
Okay, that's fine, but the more people actually want it, and the more people reminisce of his masterpiece of a shonen, he's gonna get motivated. He hasn't shown it
Now
yet.
you're speculating.
I have
That's what we want.
have
That's what we
faith.
want.
Now
to
you're
happen.
speculating. Now you're
I
trying to
don't
get into the
care.
thoughts. You're getting into the thoughts of yeah, but that's not what we're talking about. First of all, we're not even talking about this. I mean, but now you're making speculations about what Togashi really wants and what it's going to do to him and how he's going to make a change. We don't know that.
It's
From
just-
what we can see,
we
what
don't
the
know that, but
actions
we-
that his person from what he's given us, what he said, his actions in terms of hiring new writers, in terms of turning people down, in terms of his pride, in terms of these hiatuses. From what we can gather through these facts, not just speculation on how he might feel because of sales. Clearly, he has enough money to sustain him for a long time without caring about this work. I don't think that's what's motivating him at this point. Because if that's what was motivating him, he wouldn't be taking 2-year hiatuses. So, it's irrelevant. It's just the speculation of how he feels that has nothing to do with what's actually happening.
You don't know. You
hope he does. We can hope.
We can hope. We hope.
No, I'm not.
Exactly.
We can hope it comes out good. We can hope it does. But in terms of what the topic is about the future of Shonen Jump, is really 12 chapters every 2 years going to sustain Shonen Jump at all? I don't think so. I mean, nothing is even close to the quality of Hunter x Hunter is what it has been. What?
It's a pillar. You even with these chapters, you can't compare anything that's in Shonen Jump to Hunter x Hunter. You can't compare Black Clover.
I know, that's what I'm saying. But the thing is, we can't
compare anything.
Yeah, so that's a bad thing. I know this, but the thing is
of course, the overall,
it's there.
The overall scene of Shonen Jump, of course, it's bad because everything isn't even amounting to One Piece or Hunter x Hunter, and that's the thing. But Shonen Jump can still sustain its own name by pumping out and kicking mediocre manga and just trial and error, like you said, and just coming over and still having these two amazing manga keep going. It could still sustain itself because of the name it's built. And I can guarantee
you eventually it will die off of that, and it already is showing signs.
I feel I feel like Shonen Jump needs to stop, I know that basically, you see, as you can see, they give into a lot of, the big name mangaka. Like, if Kishimoto wants his new series inside Shonen Jump, even though it probably doesn't hold up to the Shonen Jump nature, they'll probably let him back in because he's Kishimoto. Sure. Yeah, for sure. But there's a new series in Shonen Jump right now that I started reading, and it has 2 chapters, and I would honestly like to see it become something big, but I actually might have more chapters now, but I'd like to see it become something big.
Remember how it works in the anime industry. In order to get an anime in there, a manga to start, the beginning has to be interesting. It has to be good. I'm going to quote Bakuman. It has to be interesting. They're not just going to publish something that starts off crap. That's just not how it works. It has to be good. But whether it turns out to be good is the question. When the person hands in their manuscript or whatever to get their stuff started, they have to have 4 chapters or more in today's age. 4 chapters or more already completed, 5 chapters, and it has to be good. From where they go from that point on is up to the manga.
More than that. Yeah, probably more than that. 4 chapters, not that much. But yeah, I would assume that that's the case, that they want to see at least a really well put together, well articulated, good characters, good plot, good pacing, atmosphere, all that stuff for the very beginning, and then they'll start to look at, okay, we're going to keep this series going, and hopefully this will be a bastion of the product going into the future. But it does need a really strong beginning.
And I feel like this new manga that came out in Shonen Jump does have it. It's called The Promise.
What is it called?
It's called The Promised Neverland. It is so interesting. Another shonen manga that came out was that manga Red Sprite. I feel like Red Sprite might get the axe, but The Promised Neverland seems very promising, and not just because of its name. It actually, it's hard to put it, but basically there are orphans, and they basically live in an orphanage, and they're branded with a bunch of numbers, they have it on their neck. It's kind of like serial numbers. So they are made to learn, play, interact with one another, and I would say that the oldest there, the kids-wise, is 11 years old. They've been told by their caretaker never to go outside of a wood boundaries, never go outside of a forest boundaries at all whatsoever. So one of their friends was taken out with the caretaker, and they noticed that, and they were just hey, it's been taking a long time for them to come back, and I had this very strange sense earlier. So they go to find them, and upon finding them, they find that their friend, that other child in the orphanage with them, was basically murdered to some degree, and was put into one of those crap. I can't put my finger on it. What the fuck would you call that? Whatever. I'll just say tube and shit. They were put inside one of,
or something.
Yeah, they were put in one of those test tube kind of things, and basically the people that came to get them were like monsters. They looked like alien-like creatures, and they had this incredible killing intent to them. So it's kind of like, oh, these kids can't do anything because they're powerless. They're just children. They have nothing special going on for them. And what made it worse is that they had there was no sign of their caretaker at all whatsoever. And then towards the end of the chapter, they're heading back to the orphanage and they're trying to make plans to escape. So it's kind of like a survival manga, but like I can't explain it properly. It's like I'm trying to not spoil a lot of things because you'd have to read it, but it's very dark for like a Shonen Jump manga. Like for a starting chapter, that's pretty dark. But then
It
again,
sounds like it.
it's pretty dark, but then I mean
What I've
you have
seen-
Platinum End too. Platinum End by Takashi.
so
By
good.
Takashi. I'd actually have to disagree with Platinum End, but like I don't feel like it's going to be like the future of Shonen Jump. Like how you were saying
This
that
is the thing.
basically like they can
This is the
maintain
thing
it.
about Shonen Jump. It's
Right.
What about
slowly,
Fire
it's
Brigade?
slowly gathering new themes. Like it's slowly getting darker, and I've noticed that
Oh,
it's
yes.
just
And I was just about to get into that topic about this is what Shonen Jump needs to do. They need, because how Shonen Jump has always worked over the last 30 years or whatever is they've appealed to the demographic of children, of kids, teenagers, lower
shonen.
age teenagers. But now
shonen.
Shonen Jump really took off in the past 10, 15, 20 years. But those same people who were following Shonen Jump back then are what are still thriving the Shonen Jump industry today's age. So instead of trying to appeal to people who aren't really reading it anymore, start appealing to the people who are following it and have been following it for years but are now older. So the demographic is now higher. So I think the genre needs to be darker. It needs to be slightly more silent. They need to start altering the things about it to appeal to the people who are actually following it.
The content,
that's kind of what it's happening, to be honest.
It is.
I have just recently actually picked up and continued Black Clover, and it's nothing amazing. It's nothing. It's just generic, and a lot of the themes are really dark. A lot of the themes can be stipulated and put in a perspective where you wouldn't expect that from shows like, oh, I don't know, Naruto or stuff like that. You wouldn't see things this common in a generic shonen, or what the shonen genre has actually built. And I think they're definitely moving in a certain direction that it's either hit or miss. People really love their shonen and their friendship power-ups and stuff like that. But then we have non-conventional anime, for example, Death Note and Bakuman, that are actually like have a different theme to it, whether it be dark or not.
And I think it's all turning down to where the anime and manga industry is heading. In terms of, years ago, besides seinen stuff, besides stuff that was made specifically for adults, the demographic of people who actually even read it or watched it, and the stipulations of anime being just for kids or being just for the lower aged people, is definitely changing now. It's starting to become a lot more popular. It's starting to become revolutionary. It's starting to become huge. And it's doing it gradually, and it's happening every single day. It's growing bigger and bigger.
In America,
to the point where
that's
now
important to
it's
say. Like in America, this is happening. Like,
Definitely.
This is a process that's happening in America.
But remember, even if it isn't as, it's huge in Japan as well.
Of course.
But the demographic
that's
might be
where,
lower there. But the thing is, you can't just, even just talking about America. America is 300 million people compared to what, 12 million over there. It's a part where it's going to grow across the world, and that's what matters. Whether it becomes worldly, and that's where the money comes in, like huge, and for long term, and it's changing. And the stipulation across the entire world is now anime is now becoming a culture, not just in Japan. It's becoming a culture around the world. It's becoming part of people's lives. It's an art. It's becoming more than just animation for kids or a cartoon or something like that. And that's what shown if they continue to do that, but they need to start evaluating exactly who they're trying to read. They need to start working with American They need to start working with American and international companies. They need to start basing their places elsewhere, having simultaneous Shonen Jump releases in translated areas. They need to start doing that. It's big enough now where that can start to be very successful. And it's dying out in Japan because their demographic is too focused. And once they start branching out to what the world demographic is, you have the options out of the wazoo to make such great things. And that's where it needs to happen, and it needs to happen soon because it is dying.
It's becoming a lifestyle. It's becoming a lifestyle over here, and the localization process is expensive and it's difficult, and that's why it hasn't until now. It hasn't seen this boom where it would be profitable enough to start considering localization efforts on that kind of scale. But it is becoming that big, and that the demographic is shifting, and it is becoming more of a adult-oriented, focused demographic that this sort of thing appeals to, that manga and anime and Shonen Jump appeal to, and so it is becoming profitable, and it is becoming a better idea from a business perspective to start concentrating more on these localization efforts and targeting these older, more mature demographics, like you mentioned, like the people that grew up with Shonen Jump that are still following it today.
It's just very important for that to happen, and I think that's really the only way to save it. Because again, I mean, in Japanese culture, anime is a culture there. It's a subculture there.
It's a lifestyle,
but it's not necessarily approved. It's not necessarily approved by everybody in that country. Just because of how Japan and their culture is already. Other countries like America, and like in America, people see it as a subculture here, kind of. But when people say they like anime, they're not shunned out of the wazoo and losing their jobs or claim to be shut-ins or whatever. It's not that serious here. And in terms of like how popular it is here and where they need to change their direction, it's focused. They won't change Shonen Jump over there because our demographic is still oriented towards children because it's still kind of shunned over there. But it's still a fact that it's no longer becoming just in Japan. It's no longer becoming just something Japan wants. And the sooner they realize that, which they probably have, and that's what they're working towards. But I mean, you can already see it though. You can already see the efforts that they're putting in. We're getting simultaneous English dubs and things like that almost simultaneously now. When other years it would take 3 or 4 years for an English dub to come out.
Yeah.
Which is impressive. We're getting almost simultaneous dubs, which is incredible. It's unthinkable. Years ago, it's just you would never expect that. You would just cry and see an awesome anime air in Japan. You'd cry and say to yourself, I wonder when that's going to get dubbed.
Better learn Japanese.
Exactly. So it's like they're taking the strides that they need to. I think they're realizing how important it is, and that's and it all comes from the source, and the source is the manga, and the source of the volumes is the magazines, and those magazines need to broaden and expand.
These serializations,
because that is what starts it. That is what makes it successful.
The question
and a
right
lot
now
of these
is how long is it going to
these
take?
like really formulaic derivative serializations need to keep this in mind too. Like they need to keep pace. They need to change as well, and their demographics need to match this growing trend. Obviously the magazine is only as good as its serializations. So they need to, the authors and the actual chapters themselves need to keep pace with this.
What were you gonna say, Andrew?
What was I gonna say? Oh yeah. How long is it gonna take Shonen Jump to create another prominent and successful manga? And I'm not talking about 100 chapters, 200 chapters. I'm talking about Bleach length, One Piece length.
Yeah.
Naruto.
Wait, what? How did you start that out? What do they need to do?
How long is it going to take them? Because let's be real, every month they axe a new show, a new manga. Every month they bring in new things. How long is it going to take them for the new big three? From a new big three, a new
I don't know
generation.
I don't know if they can,
it's not. The thing is, we can't even speculate what it would take, because first of all, these long-running successful shows are only built on time, and the time that it takes those shows to become this big are years, and the times and the demographic has changed now. That in terms of finding something that will be successful years from now, is something that we can't even pinpoint because we have no idea where it changes. Almost like it's a hit and miss. But in terms of that's but now it doesn't. It needs to turn into not making something a big three anymore. It needs to turn into something where everything is appealing.
Exactly. I was just gonna say, like,
it's hard to do that.
That was the big three was a consequence of this massive inflation of interest in America. Like, the big three is a very American thing. Like, in Japan, like, this idea of this big three, that's not as ubiquitous. Like, the idea of this big three happened because of this boom. Like, we don't need that again. We just need more of these quality, long-running, profitable series. Like, I think the big three was very much a localized phenomenon.
This is the thing. You could say that all you want, but One Piece is still the most popular series.
But remember, that's due to time. That's due to time. And we're not talking about these past shows. Remember, those were all built upon their status in time. Now, if you're talking about making like what's going to be the next big three, well, we don't know because. I mean, it depends. I mean, the times are not 20 years ago when what?
Going back for full circle. Do the current Shonen Jump manga, do they have potential to reach One Piece status, Naruto status?
No. No.
I don't think so.
Maybe except for Boku no Hero Academia.
Yeah.
That's about it. That's about it. But is that still something that can really last that long without it being really generic and getting old?
I don't know if
they've already hit like they've already hit really big plot points in Boku no Hero Academia. They've hit like the strongest person. I mean, all you can really do is focus on the next generation. That's how it started. That's the premise. But they can have some routes. But in terms of when it gets repetitive, do we really want that to be long running like Bleach or Naruto? Are there really stories like that we can drag out this long and have them be as successful as they used to be? Because remember, you're comparing Boku no Hero Academia, which has the same genres as One Piece, Bleach, Naruto, blah blah blah, and is rehashing these ideas. But these ideas are stuff that was popular 10, 15 years ago. And they're popular now because they're reiterating and rehashing them. But is it something that will be successful in the long run? I don't see it becoming that successful in the long run. There needs to be a change in what is successful.
Sinclair, let Chris talk.
There needs to be a change in. No, it's fine. There needs to be a change in. There just needs to be a change in how things happen. Because the big three is no longer to be what we have seen as the big three. The big three isn't going to be Naruto and Bleach. It's not going to be that genre. It can't be because that genre has been done. And once you rehash those genres, you automatically make repetitive work, which becomes automatically unpopular in time.
Which is it's what Shonen Jump is and has been. But can Shonen Jump actually keep calling itself Shonen Jump and move to a more seinen aspect of it and not be
exactly because Shonen you can't do much more.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean it already has its Ultra Jump. It's a monthly Ultra Jump where series like JoJo, blah blah, and things like that are being serialized successfully. But the thing about Shonen Jump is it worth investing time into it, or is it just going to be a never-ending cycle of rehashment and formulaic shows? And
I don't think it can be a never-ending cycle. It's something that will change whether we want it to or not. It's something that will change based off what's happening. Remember, shonens, you really can't get too much in depth in that genre because it's pretty generic, and there's already been a lot of work on it. So having original own ideas is getting harder and harder to appeal to this demographic. It's becoming something where it has to change because you're not going to find things as successful. Because again, if you rehash like Black Clover, if you rehash ideas, it's not going to be as successful. It's just not going to do it anymore. That genre is no longer going to be what propels anime. The Bleach, Naruto, One Piece, when those aired, they were the first of their kind almost. I mean, you had other shows before that paved the way for them, but there wasn't a massive plethora of freaking shonens everywhere. There wasn't a massive plethora of that genre. Now you see it more, so you can't continue to make that genre and hope it to be as successful as its predecessors. It's not going to happen. So, like you said, I mean, whether it's going to continue to be successful or whether they have to change, well, it's not a matter of whether they want to or whether it can or not. It's kind of has to, and it's going to. Whether it has to or not, it's going to.
Where would we like it to go? What would we like to see of Shonen Jump?
I think what's going to have to happen is what's going to have to happen with Shonen Jump is either one of the three things, probably. The one is this is an overhaul of their entire name, which would be a really risky move. But I don't think it'd be as risky as it would have been years ago. I think doing it now would probably be. I think with a gigantic localization, I got a gigantic international push for a complete localization of their magazines and rehashing and renaming their magazines would be probably their best thing to do, but their riskiest move. And in changing the demographic and changing the type of content we see in it. Because remember, in terms of who's buying these, who has the money to buy them, it's going to be the people who have the money to buy them and want to buy them. In America, the demographic isn't about parents, pleasing their children with these. I mean, it can happen, and that's why you have to keep the demographic sort of. But it's about who has the money to buy it and who wants to spend their money. You have people who can everything and will do whatever they can to get it, but we can't. We don't have the option. So I think that would be their biggest move is to do that, and I think at this day and age they can do that successfully. And I think if they did it, it would be huge.
Yeah, I think
they keep doing what they're going to do.
High upside,
What are the other two?
Yeah, the other two is the second one is that they're going to keep their name, and they try to, which doesn't make any sense, but try to alter their genre. But once you do that, you no longer become shonen. Once you alter your demographic, because remember, shonen is not a genre; it's a demographic. Once you start altering your demographic.
Hello?
Like not higher level, but dark aspects, more original content, which includes more dramatic, impactful things, which in turn leads to older. You no longer become shonen, so you can no longer advertise that as shonen in a Shonen Jump magazine. So that's something where if they don't change their name, they're going to have to keep where they're at, which will eventually lead to them dying. That's their second thing.
Subtle changes. I really like the subtle changes in some of the most recent
but it's not enough.
They're doing. But they can't do a 180.
It's not enough.
It's time. It takes time. They can't do a complete 180 change in about what?
It does take time. But the thing is, with time is what we're failing to understand is you don't want to see a 180 because the risk is super high. It's super high. Yeah, but you have to take into consideration that. Like I said it already,
they got time.
The success of things in the past but they don't have time. They don't have time because all these big works are ending. Everything that's driving them is ending. But the thing is, with new works, you want to believe in the hopes of Boku no Hero Academia, but it's already driving off of the factors of its previous work, and originality of it is almost nil. The popularity isn't even close to how once Naruto started. It's nowhere near as popular as when Bleach or One Piece started. It's not even close. You can't even compare it because the ideas are rehashed. The genre is rehashed and it's becoming old.
That's fine.
And it's something where you want to say you have time, but you don't because you're hoping that these shows will evolve, but they can't. So it's you're going to put the more time you get, the more it's going to become more, and the more it's going to die. And that's that.
It's subtly changing. It doesn't have to make a 180 turn right away. And it has, like I said, it has pillars.
I think it
still has pillars. It still has pillars, and it doesn't need to take 15 to 20 years because we can all agree that would be way too long. But it's subtly changing its demographic. It's actually.
But remember that's enough for you to say as a reader. You're saying this because from a reader of your perspective, you are interested in darker things, blah, blah, blah. But, it all comes down to what universally become popular.
What's best from a business perspective? That's what they're going to do. What's best from a business perspective?
Exactly.
And
so,
I can tell you
as
right
you,
now,
like I already said,
I could tell you going to do a 180 change in less than 5 years.
I don't think it'll happen. I don't think it'll happen anytime soon. But I think eventually they're going to have to, and it's not going to be a common whether they want to or not. Like I said,
it has to be subtle. It can't be something.
It's going to be a whether. It's not going to be a. Going to be a matter as they have to. It's something where from a business perspective, nothing that they're putting out right now is even close. Even popularity, sales as close to how the big three, or quote unquote the big three were, or how other past works that have been really popular
saying,
for a year or two. Nothing has been even close because it's all rehashed ideas and rehashed genre.
Still selling. One Piece is still selling more than anything in the world.
One Piece, yes, but that's still part of the big three.
Everyone agrees that there has to be a change. It's just about how fast. How fast do we have to change? How fast do they have to change? That's the real question. We all agree that there needs to be a change.
It's not going to be right away.
Oh, it won't be right away. Nobody ever said that. But it's going to change into what needs to happen.
They have to change. It all just comes down to how fast do they need to change.
But if they don't do it quick enough, if they don't do it quick enough, it will die. Because they can't be too slow with it. If they're going to keep going at this pace, it will die. It will definitely die. They need to start making some more risky small moves. There's nothing to disagree with it. I mean, from a business perspective, there is nothing to disagree. Shonen Jump sales have been lower than they've ever been in the past 10 years. What?
You want to show me? Like I said, they're slowly switching its themes. They're not doing anything completely drastic, but they slowly are.
But listen to me. But listen to this. But once they do that, once they start switching their themes, they are no longer going to become shonen, and that defeats the purpose of what Shonen Jump is. So regardless of whether they want to or have to, no matter what angle you take it from, they have to change, and they have to change it completely. Once you take those steps, it automatically leads to taking further steps. It's something where it's inevitable. It's almost
obvious. That's really obvious, and I don't think anybody would disagree with that. But the thing is, it's already changing. It's not like they have to.
It is. Nobody's debating that. But the thing is, they're changing because they have to. They're changing because they have to. It has to be done. There was never a debate of whether they're not changing. It's whether they have to change. And I think it needs to be done within a timely manner. It needs to be done within a timely manner, because if they don't do it fast enough, you still have One Piece
fall off a cliff
in the magazine, but as soon as that ends, it'll be a part where they have nothing to ride on, and then they have to make an immediate 360, 180 move because they died. So they have to make this gigantic, huge bargain and hope it's successful. Yeah. But when they could have did it 3 months ago or 2 years ago, it would have worked.
Exactly. If they pace it, and if they do it at the proper pace, that's going to be key. So they just have to do it before they find themselves in a position where it's all or nothing, and they have to gamble. They want to do it slow. They want to do it at a measured pace. They want to do it properly.
It's not up to them. And you're right, Andrew. It's not up to really them. It's up to who's watching it, the viewers.
It's up to it's up to the viewers, and whoever submitting works. I mean,
what you do is once you change the criteria of what you want submitted. Right now, Shonen Jump, for a fact that Shonen Jump wants things that are going to appeal to younger children, and when they see those works, they'll give those a shot. But they need to start bringing in other authors. There's plenty of other people with plenty of other ideas besides the shonen genre that can be placed in these magazines.
Yeah, and
once you do that, Shonen Jump.
That's changing the demographic. Yeah, they changing the demographic also means accepting less works that are shonen oriented, accepting more works that are seinen oriented, that have darker themes, more mature concepts, stuff like that. And they will do it. And they will already
doing it.
Exactly. They are slowly, but
they are already doing it.
Is it enough? No. If One Piece were to end tomorrow, is that enough to keep Shonen Jump going? No.
It's not going to end tomorrow. We automatically know it's not.
Oh, I'm just saying. Even with just One Piece by itself, is that truly enough to keep Shonen Jump going? I think so. Not.
I think so.
Exactly.
I think
without it having to change. We're already seeing the change now. We're already seeing it. Yeah. It's already happening.
Without having to change, of course not. The change is inevitable, but
exactly.
This pillar that is One Piece could support them for a fair amount of time.
Because they've had so much success.
A fair amount of time.
You mentioned how big the name is.
We're not saying 20 years. We're saying 5 years. We're saying 3 to 5 years.
No, I'm not saying. I'm not even saying. I don't even know what time period it would be for them to completely switch. I have no idea what time frame they would need to. I have no idea. I'm not saying tomorrow. I'm not saying next year. I'm not saying 2 years from now. But it is eventually, and it needs to happen sooner than later. We have no idea where One Piece is going to go. We have no idea where these other works are going to go, whether they're going to fall down the drain. We have no idea. But right now we do know that the pillars that were once Shonen Jump's pillars are gone. So
Gone.
now we know that now we're riding on very thin wires. We're wiring on very short fuses, and it's something where if it falls apart, it's over, and it's done. So the changes need to happen sooner than later before those inevitable things do happen, because
I could
everything
already
has to come to an end.
Before the consequences manifest themselves. Exactly.
I could already see One Piece being dethroned. I mean, we have things like Shonen Weekly, we have things like the Dansha, we have a lot of great magazines that give us great weekly shonen, and I can already see
Exactly. And I can see it too. At this rate, I can totally see it. The demographic is changing, and unless Shonen Jump decides to change their demographic, or even just change their name or do a huge 180 pull, like I just said, they really can't get out of their entire. They can't get out of it. They really truly can't get out of it unless they do make a 360 180 pull at some point in time.
Yeah, the times are changing, and yeah, they gotta change with it, at some pace or another.
And I would
hopefully sooner before the consequences manifest.
Guys, remember that at 3 hours the call drops. So
we're nowhere near that.
No, we're not gonna go that long. We're not gonna go that long.
No, but we're at 2:53.
Just
Skype, and at 3 it drops.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. Well, this will be the last topic anyway. The next one's kind of weird. But, the whole topic was, is Shonen Jump on the route right now that it needs to be successful?
Oh.
And if we're talking about success, that is a no.
Right.
We can all agree that as it is now, it will not continue to be as successful as it was.
Exactly.
And it needs to change. Right? But, I would hate to see something as big as iconic and as driving and as popular and as money driven as Shonen Jump that just disappear. I would rather see Shonen Jump make the risk and use that immense popularity, its immense pool, and put it towards something that will actually drive the industry.
In the new way.
I'd rather see all those resources. I'd rather see those resources be put into different avenues, be put into more successful international things, and keep everything going. I would hate to see it just die. That would be a big blow to the anime industry and the manga industry.
Yeah.
It would be a really big blow. And I would hate for that to happen. Before that happens, I'd rather them change than not do that.
We don't necessarily know where it's gonna go. I mean, we have a lot of.
No, we don't know. We're not experts.
The thing about Shonen
idea.
Jump, I wouldn't even say idea, because it could go a lot of different ways. It could go sign-in orientated. It could take the sport orientation. It could take the show.
But we do know it needs to change. We do know it needs to change.
The generic rehash formulaic shows just need to end, because that's all we've gotten for the past 15 years, and some are better than others, but still.
Exactly.
And that's the consensus. I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's not a terrible thing. It's not. And the thing is, we're taking Shonen Jump and we're making it seem like that's the end all be all, when we just said before that there's other magazines that are slowly coming up that are producing more big things, other even types of material, light novels, other things that are spurring the anime industry on and the success of the industry on by themselves without Shonen Jump even being there. So it's part